Today's speaker is Roberta Matuson, president of Matuson Consulting. For more than 25 years, Roberta has helped leaders in Fortune 500 companies, including General Motors, Best Buy, and the Boston Beer Company, and small to medium-sized businesses achieve dramatic growth and market leadership through the maximization of talent. She is known globally as the talent maximizer. She is the person that top employment site Monster and global retail giant Staples turn to for advice on talent. She's the author of several books, including Suddenly in Charge, Managing Up, Managing Down, Succeeding All Around, the Talent Magnetism, and her new book, The Magnetic Leader. She has a BS in Human Resource Management from Northeastern and an MBA in Finance and Management from the University of Houston. And I like to tell a little fun fact about our speakers, if I have it, and I do. She is one of a handful of people who've appeared as a guest of Bill Riley on Fox's O'Reilly Factor, and she actually left the show unscathed. So please welcome Roberta Matuson.
Thank you, Susan. Good morning.
Good morning.
Boy, you guys get up this early every month, huh? Maybe some of you get up this early every day. Well, I'm delighted to be here, and I wanted to share with you a story about a recent event that happened when I was in Atlanta. I was coming back from the airport on MARTA, and a little lost. If the truth be known, I really don't navigate well, but I was making a good attempt. And I ran across this gentleman, and he was probably a middle-aged guy, and he was sitting next to me, and we engaged in a conversation. And he looked a little bit disheveled. He looked really kind of tired. And so I said, you know, what's going on? Where did you come from? And he said, well, I just got back from a trade show. And I said, oh, really? And what were you doing there? And he said, well, I work in the insurance business, and my company is opening up offices all around the country. And I was actually there poaching talent. And I said, really? And then he had this big smile on his face. And I said, well, how did that go? And he said, it went really well. And so I deemed this gentleman Jeff the Plucker, because Jeff is going out there and he is plucking talent out of companies. And he's very successful at doing this. And so I want you to think about Jeff, because there are hundreds of thousands of Jeffs out there right now. And they're out there and they're looking for your talent. And so as we talk about how to create a solar system of talent, it's really important that we focus as well on how do you go about creating this force field around your talent that's going to allow you to keep the talent and prevent others from plucking out your talent. And so I do a lot of consulting with organizations that are looking to maximize their talent. And right now, as you know, we've got here in Boston 3.3% unemployment. And it's interesting because as I was preparing for today, I was looking at some other presentations that I had done. And one that comes to mind must have been maybe 2 years ago. And I was saying, wow, unemployment is at 5.5%. Like, labor's getting tight. Yet today, it's 3.3. And the question is, how low can it go? I think it's going to go lower, but at this point, we're pretty much at full employment. So I don't know if it's going to make a huge difference, but I think it's something to be aware of. And so as we have our discussions today, what I really want you to think about is the following. What is the point of hiring great people if you can't keep them? And I know some companies that are really, really great at hiring. because that's all they do. They just cannot keep their people. So hopefully that doesn't apply to any of you here. But just in case. So some points that I want to make sure that we talk about today is that, number one, you don't need top talent in every position. And I think what's happened is we've gotten so carried away with, oh, we have to have the best, the brightest. You know what? There are some jobs where, somebody who's just good is good enough. For example, if you have somebody who's working in accounting, and then accounting is not your specialty, and you have a CFO, or you have an outside firm helping you, having someone in accounting who is pretty good is okay. You don't need the superstars that the big companies need, that's their entire business. And by just kind of dropping what you're thinking of in terms of, oh my gosh, I have to have the best and the brightest, a couple of things are going to happen. Number one, you're going to give yourself permission to look at other people. Number two, you're going to find a lot less competition. And so when I talk about looking for talent, here's what I advise my clients to do. Anyone here have the pleasure of going to any of the Disney parks?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I think we're done with that in my family, although, you never know. So what happens? You go into the theme park, and you walk in, and what does everyone do? Everybody turns right when you go through the gates, right? And you're all turning right, and you're all waiting in a long line, and there's the same, rides and food and gift shops as there are on the left side. Yet again, habit, we go right. So my advice to you today is to go left. When you are going through the doors looking for talent, stop following everyone else. Stop going to the right and go to the left. And here's why. On the left are some fabulous people. They're well qualified. Here's what some of them might look like. Some of them might have stepped out of the workforce for a few years. And now they've decided, you know what? My kids are grown. I'd like to step back in. I can tell you as a mother of 2 children that after you have kids, it may feel like you lose your mind, but it does come back. So what I want you to think about is, where's this talent pool of people who want to return to the workforce? Anyone here ever get laid off, fired? Does that mean you're damaged? Because for some reason we seem to think that if someone's fired, they're not what we want. It's like they're damaged, and it's like a disease. Unemployment is not a disease, it's a condition. So I want you to think about maybe, again, turning to the left and looking for people who are not working right now. So that's what I mean when I say go to the left. Here's my last example. I have a client right now who's a nonprofit, and in the they belong to the National Association. There's this crazy rule that you have to have a college degree to do a job that, in my opinion, really doesn't require one. Yet they're kind of stuck in this place where they have to hire people with degrees. If you're not in that situation and you find someone who's bright and has all the traits that you're looking for and they don't have a degree, hire them. Because the people that are on the left, they're the ones, when you give them an opportunity, they're going to be grateful. They're going to be thankful. They're going to stick around. So that's why I'm a huge advocate of going to the left. The other thing I want to make sure I talk about is that how many of you have low employee turnover? Are you proud of that? You're very proud of that. Okay. I have some clients that used to be proud of that until we realized that they had low unemployment because they really weren't managing their workforce. They weren't managing out the non-performers. And so it was a very nice place to work, and no one ever left. And when people don't leave, what happens? You start breathing your own exhaust, right? Because no fresh air can come in. So if your turnover is too low, that's not a good thing. I mean, I think there's a healthy balance here. So in my new book, The Magnetic Leader, I start the book out by talking about the fact that people don't work for companies. They work for people. And in a recent Tiny Pulse survey that was done, the question was asked, what would you like to change most about your leader? And the number 2 answer was, people wished their leaders would quit. Honest to God. And I just I'm like, oh my gosh, that's brilliant. Then I thought, oh my gosh, that's a huge problem. And so I'm sharing that with you because this whole concept of attracting top talent towards you really comes down to the leadership in your organization. And it comes down to that magnetism. I personally have worked for some incredibly magnetic leaders. I was making at least 20% below market. I didn't care. And I knew market because I worked in HR. And I knew what everyone else's salaries were. So I knew how I was paid. And I didn't care because I had a great leader. And I had an awesome experience. So, as you think about how are you going to attract people to your organization and how are you going to keep them, I would strongly encourage you to focus on developing your leaders. It is an investment that will pay off in spades. So what I would like to do is, I want to keep this really interactive this morning. I have put out, or the people here at SBANE have put out an assessment. It's a talent magnetism assessment. And what I would like you guys to do is to go through this assessment and honestly answer these questions. And then we're going to take about 5 minutes for you guys to talk amongst yourselves at your tables about the results. And again, be as honest as you can. Okay, let's come back together. Any surprises here? Anybody come up with a perfect score of 4? Because I've never seen that happen. Not if we're being honest. Anybody want to share some takeaway that they learned as a result of sharing where they were at with their table? Or a challenge that you may have? I heard some really good ones. So the response here is that low turnover isn't necessarily, as we talked about, great, because people might just be performing at an average level. Another person. Well, do you think companies like Google have that challenge?
Yes.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. There are clients, we know that.
Okay. In many aspects, they still have a line out the door. Maybe not for engineers, but I can guarantee you for their support roles, they have a line out the door based on, who they are and their reputation and their magnetism. There's a lot of things that you can do without a Google-sized wallet. Here's one of them. Fascinating occurrence this week. My 18-year-old son, who's getting ready he's applying to college. He's been very busy. Decided that he was going to get a job. And so he went online and he applied to the camp where he was working as a CIT, and he's a computer guy, so this is a computer camp. And in less than 24 hours, he got a response. How many of you can tell me that if I were going to apply to work for your company, that I would get a call in less than 24 hours? This is a summer camp. They do not have a team of 30 recruiters. They do not even have online applications, yet he got a call. Second example, because this is a summer job and he needs a job now, he applied for a job with Italy, the new store down at the Prudential. Again, within 24 hours, he got an email. And I had, as his mother, had to explain to him, this is not normal. Do not expect this to ever happen again in your life. And so and the reason I'm sharing that with you is I have another prospect who's in the supermarket business, and I'm offering a new program on poaching talent. And I'm going to teach organizations how to go in and steal the talent they need and safeguard their own. And so the CEO is interested. And so he passes along the information to one of his people in HR, and his person gets back to me and says, can we speak in mid-January? I'm really busy. And I'm thinking, you are not going to hire my son. He's going to get a job before you even think about how you can get people, because you're not being quick enough. So it doesn't take a lot of money to be quick. And that's the kind of thing that I want to encourage you to do, because look, I get it. You don't have these unlimited resources like the big companies. So you're not going to be able to just spend money and get people. But there are things like responding to candidates rapidly that you can do. So the real value of this self-assessment is if you go back to your company and you give it to the people who work for you, and you say, I would like you to fill this out, and then compare your answers to theirs. And so let's just say you think that employees consider our company a great place to work, and you rated that a 3, and your employees rated that a 1. That's the area, that's the gap that I want you to look at. And if you would like a copy of this, an electronic copy, leave me your card, put on the back, self-assessment, and I will send it to you, and then you can use it in your firms. The second area that I want to talk about, this is on retention, and this is what I call the leaving speech. You guys are seeing this before anyone else. It's in the new book. Here's why I did this. Rob Nixon, who's the CEO of Penalytics, which is a small business outside of Australia, shared a story on Facebook, and I happen to be friends with him. And he shared this leaving speech. And so I reached out to him and said, Rob, I love this. Can I share this with my community? And he said, absolutely. What happened with Rob is earlier on in his career, he had a small business, and in his own words, he had, quote unquote, 25 churns for 10 positions, meaning he had 10 jobs and he had like 25 people in and out the door within a year. Yes. And he finally realized that something had to change. And he realized that the problem was him. And so what he did is he went on a walkabout, because he's in Australia, and he came back and he decided that the best way to really make sure that his people had the best experience was to say goodbye to them on the first day of their arrival. And this is called the leaving speech. And so if you think about it, Rob basically said, hey, you're here and I'm delighted to have you, but I know one day you're going to leave. And when you do, I hope you'll say the following. So what I would like you all to do is take a few minutes and start your leaving speeches. You may not finish it today. You can take it back to your offices and create the kind of experience that you want people who come to work for you to have. Now, just imagine you're an employee, and your boss on the first day says to you the following, and she gives you the leaving speech. You're going to be on Facebook, you're going to be on LinkedIn, you're going to be on Instagram, you're going to be like, oh my God, I work for the most awesome boss. She told me everything she hoped for me in my dreams and knows that eventually I'm going to leave. Isn't this cool? Right? Because who is doing this? No one right now, because the book's not out until March. Okay? So you have a head start. But I think it's a fantastic way to really make a commitment to the people who are working for you. So take the next 3 to 5 minutes, start your leaving speeches. So it looks like you guys are off to a great start, and I'm going to encourage you to, when you leave here, don't go to your office. Go get a coffee and sit down and finish your speech. Because I know how busy we all get, and then we put it aside and we don't think about it again. A couple of things before we go to the Q&A. I did mention that I was going to be teaching people how to poach talent. I know you're all busy, so I also want to give you an opportunity. I've written a new executive briefing on poaching talent, how to steal your competitors' talent and safeguard your own. I have not put it out into the general public because I'm giving it to my inner circle first. This way you guys will have a jump start. If you want a copy, again, just put on your card, Poaching Talent. Happy to offer it to you with my compliments. Consider it my holiday gift. So I'd like to open up the floor to any questions that you guys might have on talent, how to attract people, how to retain them. The 3 most challenging positions to fill right now, in no particular order, are IT, sales, and then accounting/finance. Those are the 3 most challenging positions. And so the question is, are people really narrowing their pipeline because, using your words, they're lazy and they don't know how to interview? I don't think that they're lazy. I think that they don't know how to interview. They're not comfortable with the process. They also are not realistic, and they really have no idea. If you were to tell them that, give them a study or report, look, this is one of the hardest positions to fill, and every day that goes by, we're losing revenue. We need to make some changes, then I think you can capture their attention. So the question is, why aren't more companies investing in their leaders, and should they? Should they be? But before we get to that question, I couldn't help but hear, I thought you might have said that when we were talking about recruitment fees, that's after you negotiate. Please don't ever negotiate your fees, and here's why. Okay, so we have 2 people here. This gentleman is awesome, and he has negotiated our firm down to 20%. This gentleman said, you know what, I'm going to pay the 30%. I'm a recruiter. I get paid on commission. I eat what I kill. He's getting all the A candidates, people, and maybe, well, no, he's getting the A. He's getting whatever I have left. So keep that in mind. Are you really saving money? So to your question, leadership development is so critical because if you look at what people want today, they want to be developed. It doesn't have to be an expensive training program. It can be, offering to pay for them to come to a session like this, on a topic that is relevant to them. It could be saying, I've put aside this much money for you to purchase books for yourself, for self-development. It could be, we have access to online training. It could be, I have a coach that I'd like you to consider working with. So I do think it's an important investment. And why do companies dismiss it? That I cannot tell you. I just think that they feel like there might be more important things, but I, like yourself, feel like it's the most important thing. So as we wrap up, because we're very, very much want to get you out back on 128, I really want you guys to think about, especially during the holidays, this is a time when people start to reevaluate. It's sort of like they're going to Christmas parties, they're gathering with their family, they're realizing they're not maybe doing as well as their brother-in-law, and come January, I think you're going to see a slew of people bolting out the door. And so what I would encourage you to do is to go back today and really have some transparent and honest conversations with your people about, would you recommend our place as a place to work? And if they hesitate for even a moment, I think they're giving you an answer. And then if they say, well, then really listen and say, what could we do differently here? I thank you so much for your time. I've enjoyed speaking with you today. I'll be around if you want to chat privately about a matter, and I hope you all have a lovely holiday.